Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 2025 Growth Conference, where we are covering the theme of women as nation builders. Please feel free to join in our conversation using the chat button on the right at the bottom of your screen. The chat should pop up on the right-hand side of your screens. Please do tell us where you're joining from. We are excited to have you here. We welcome our speakers today, who have joined us from all across the globe. We're talking about speakers who are joining us from South Africa, India, Gambia today, just to start off with more promise in the next couple of days. So whilst you tell me where you're joining from, I will kick off the event, and I would like to introduce our host for the event, who is Noella. I'd like to say a few words about Noella first before I hand the floor over to her, if that's okay with you. So let's start off. Noella Ugu is a personal branding and business development expert. She is a sought-after global keynote speaker and has conducted training programs, seminars, and coaching sessions for individuals and blue-chip companies across industries globally for over 13 years. She's a strong advocate for girls, women, and vulnerable children, and her unwavering passion spurred her to initiate the Growth Conference, which is a global platform focused on developing female leaders around the world. She's the founder of Tech for Her, a tech awareness initiative for girls in secondary schools. And in recognition of her advocacy, she was invited to speak at the UN 75th anniversary on gender-based violence and gender-based inequality. Renowned for awakening the giant in people, she ignites the spark for change and empowerment. She combines her skills, knowledge, and experience to deliver bespoke training programs to organizations using her 3 E's: engaging, experiential, and exciting. Her career began in the banking industry, where she spent 9 years developing businesses and managing clients with a sterling track record. She's worked with GT Bank and left the industry voluntarily as the head of private banking Southeast for Stanbic IBTC to set up her consulting business. As you can see in front of you, she is and she's got so many other accolades to her name. So, without further ado, please, let's give a warm welcome to Noella to start our 3-day event with a massive bang. Over to you, Noella. I think you are on mute, Noella. There you go. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Hina, for that introduction. Thank you so much. Our distinguished guests and our amazing speakers, I welcome all of you to this extraordinary gathering. And it's both an honor and a privilege for me to open this landmark leadership event. And I'd like to say that this conference is for women. And I am privileged and honored to open this event, especially as we celebrate our first anniversary. And this first anniversary is being celebrated under the timely theme, Women as Nation Builders. This conference is more than just an event. It's actually a call to action. It's a celebration of strength and the reaffirmation of the roles that women have been playing for a long time in shaping homes, in shaping societies, in shaping economies, in shaping communities and nations as a whole. We can all agree that from the classroom to the boardrooms, from the farms to parliament houses, from healthcare to entrepreneurship to finance, everywhere you go, we see that women have been at the forefront of progress, and they have been the guardians of the future of nations, even though their hard work is rarely ever acknowledged the way it should. Now, today, we gather not only to exchange ideas, but this gathering is also to ignite new ideas. We are here to honor those on whose shoulders we stand and those who inspire us to follow in the right footsteps. This conference will also serve as an opportunity for sharing stories of resilience, vision, innovation, and challenges will be confronted at this conference. Not only will challenges be confronted, solutions will also be discovered, and then collaborations will be forged. As we engage with our esteemed guests from around the world, guests that I hold so dear to my heart, guests who have helped to see that this vision of developing female leaders across the globe is birthed. These people are very, very special to me. And as we engage with them, let's always remember that this conversation is about the power of influence, and that this conversation can also help to not just influence policies in our communities, in our nations, but also it has the power to shift mindsets of everybody who is here today. It also has the power to redefine possibilities and tell us the things that we can achieve, which we thought were impossible. Everybody here, every one of you, you're not just a guest, but we consider you a partner on this path and this mission of nation building. You are our partner. The fact that you are here means that we are all working in collaboration to see that the reason for establishing the Growth Conference becomes reality. And so, on behalf of the organizing committee of this great event, I warmly welcome all of you again. And it is my wish that at the end of this program, everybody is going to leave empowered to lead, to connect, and to grow continually. Thank you, everybody. I will also want to use this opportunity to say thank you and to acknowledge all those who have hosted the Growth Conference regional conferences last year. We have with us here Weluche. Weluche was the host for the Growth Conference UK last year. Weluche, thank you so much for what you did for us, for what you are doing, and for what we know you're going to do in the future. Weluche hosted the Growth Conference UK, which focused on financial and economic empowerment for women. Weluche, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Noella.
Thank you. And Weluche is also a speaker at this international conference, even though she's not going to be speaking today, I believe, right? Now,
yes,
we also have, yes, tomorrow. Thank you so much, Weluche. We also have Susan Chibanga. Susan is meant to be speaking today. Susan hosted the Growth Conference Southern Africa. She hosted the Growth Conference Southern Africa. Susan, are you here? Susan, are you here? Okay. We also want to acknowledge Hilda Bahati. Hilda Bahati hosted the Growth Conference East Africa. I don't know if Hilda is here, so we can spotlight her. These are the women who made our dream come this far. And then we have Kruti Shah. Kruti hosted the Growth Conference India. Is Kruti here? Kruti is meant to be speaking at the Growth Conference International as well. Thank you so much, Kruti, if you're here. If you're not here, I'll be thanking you in absentia. Then we have our dear Genevieve Duncan. Genevieve hosted the Growth Conference West Africa. Jenny, if you're here, please, let's see you. But if she's not here, we are thanking her in absentia. So these are the women who hosted the Growth Conference, the regional conferences last year. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And I know we're going to have a great time with our speakers. Thank you once again and welcome. So I'm going to introduce our dynamic, ever vibrant, energetic moderator, Hina Mystery. I mean, Hina is she's such a force. Hina has been with us and she has supported us so much. Hina is a fellow of the Institute of Actuaries who has specialized in pensions consulting for over 20 years. Having graduated from the London School of Economics in Actuarial Science, she has and continues to build upon her expertise through a career in Aon, which is a leading global professional services firm. In addition to her core responsibilities, her role also requires a deep understanding of budgeting, financial planning, and situational awareness, which are invaluable competencies to have in any professional and personal scenario. Hina has a passion for supporting development and growth of new talent, and having worked from an early age with individuals from all walks of life, she is extremely adept at understanding and navigating any individual circumstances to ensure both a positive outcome and indeed a great success. Outside of work, Hina enjoys spending time with her family and traveling, which in recent years has, in addition to trips back to her childhood home in Kenya, included several road trips within mainland Europe and North America. There is nothing quite like the experience of navigating your way through unfamiliar territory when also entirely outside of your comfort zone. Having these global, cross-cultural, and cross-socio-economic experiences is something Hina has found to be truly inspiring and humbling, and has allowed for a unique perspective and outlook on all aspects of life. Let us give a resounding TGC welcome and applause to Hina Mystery as she takes the stage.
Thank you so much.
So to have you here, Hina.
Thank you so much, Noella, and I'm humbled and honored to be here as well. Thank you for the kind words. And
You're
in
welcome.
keeping with what you have said and with the spirit of the conference and our theme of women as nation builders, I think it's high time we started with our first speaker, don't you, Noella? So,
absolutely.
Perfect, thank you. And so as before I introduce our first speaker, just a few housekeeping rules. So as we go through our speakers for the day, we would like to encourage all our delegates to please participate using the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Any questions you have for our speakers, please put them alongside in the chat. And once they've finished presenting their session, I'm sure they will be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's make this as interactive as possible and let's get this show started. So, introducing our first speaker of the day, Lezola Kati from South Africa. Lezola is an experienced specialist and practitioner in the field of social justice, climate change, and greenwashing campaigns. Her expertise lies in designing, raising awareness, and implementing national and global campaigns. She has collaborated with embassies in South Africa, Germany, and China, focusing on raising awareness on campaigns and meeting the campaign goal. She played a key role in the final report for the Anti-Disinformation Project, which aimed to eradicate disinformation in South Africa during elections, and has been part of the team running the Oceans Not Oil campaign, generating over 100,000 signatures on the platform and stopping Shell, the international company, from continuing any oceans exploration in South Africa in the province of the Eastern Cape. Lezola has also made key contributions to public policy, which Noella even referred to before, including the Film and Publications Amendment Bill, which has since been admitted into law. Last but not least, she spearheaded a commission of inquiry through the Competition Commission of South Africa into data costs, which led to network companies in South Africa decreasing prices, making the internet more accessible to a wider audience. I can think of no one better than Lezola to kick off our session for today. So let's give a resounding warm welcome to Lezola, who is going to be covering women in environmental sustainability and climate action. Lezola, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me this evening. And I am honored to be part of the Growth Conference 2025. I will jump right into it. This year, the theme being women as nation builders is absolutely so important. And my section looking into women in environmental sustainability and climate action leadership is one that I'm very passionate about and that I'm sure that many people have many questions about. Now, Women as Nation Builders highlights the crucial role women play in shaping and sustaining our societies, particularly in the context of environmental sustainability and climate action. As we delve into this topic, we will explore key discussion points that underscore women's contributions, challenges, and opportunities in environmental advocacy. The first and biggest challenge in essentially having women in leadership and having women in climate action policy making is the percentage of women in climate policy leadership, which can vary significantly from region to region and organization to organization. However, from global representation, women hold about only 30% of leadership positions in climate related organizations, such as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and other international environmental NGOs. And with regard to national governments, I think everyone can definitely identify with the fight when it comes to women's representation in government in general, and thus looking at it from a climate perspective, it is difficult. But currently, we sit at approximately 25 to 30% of leadership roles in climate policy and environmental ministries belonging to women. This can differ obviously widely from country to country, but this is the general global statistic. This then necessitates for us to actually take a deeper look at the sector of environmental sustainability and more so climate action policy leadership, specifically because women are usually at the receiving end of the harshest aspect of climate change by virtue of already being vulnerable in the patriarchal society we live in. We need to look at how women can be impactful to sustainable development and climate action policies. Sorry, I just realized I have a technical issue here.
I was just about to ask about the video, Luzula, so thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right, let me just figure this out.
There you go. We can
You
see
can
you
see me
now.
now.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Can you still see me now?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Perfect.
we can.
So we then want the key aspects that I'll be going into are basically women's role in promoting sustainable development, and I'll take us through basically the different aspects. So women are often the primary managers of national and natural resources in their communities, making their roles vital in promoting sustainable practices. They play a significant part in agriculture, water management, and biodiversity conservation. And this we've seen in cultural and national aspects throughout generations. By integrating traditional knowledge and modern practices, women can drive innovative solutions to environmental challenges, ensuring that development is both sustainable and equitable. Now, in looking at women's roles in climate action space, we need to look at gender responsive climate policies. Effective policies must acknowledge the different impacts of climate change on women and men. Gender responsive policies that consider women specific. Okay, I think I'm just having technical challenges. I might just have my video off for now. And then when I do answer questions, I'll have it back on. Is that fine?
That should be okay. It came back on just for a slight minute, so I don't know if you might be okay now, but we'll
Your
go with
video
what you're
came on
comfortable with.
just a minute ago, Lazola. Let's see if we can use up a video for a while. Just turn it on. Let's see how it goes.
All right, sure, no problem. I'll just have it on and then it may just come in and out. Technology is definitely.
Yeah, we can see you now.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Climate policies must then acknowledge the different impacts of climate change on women and men. Gender responsive policies that consider more effective climate action. This includes access to resources, education, and participation in decision-making processes, which ultimately enhances resilience and adaptability in the face of climate changes. We need to look at women as leaders in environmental activism and giving women these opportunities. In response to an exclusion women have experienced in leadership, women have been at the forefront of many environmental movements worldwide, advocating for policies that protect ecosystems, promote sustainability, and women's unique perspective and lived experiences and positionality in society also assist and empower to lead grassroots movement initiatives and influence policy changes at a local and national and international levels. Now, what is important is celebrating these women and supporting these leaders is essential so that we can foster a more inclusive and effective environmental movement. Now comes the time where we ask ourselves questions about how we can do this and what has been the challenge thus far. So how can women-led initiatives drive sustainable development? Women-led initiatives have driven development throughout the ages. And in this perspective, it can be done by addressing specific community needs through innovative solutions. These initiatives often incorporate holistic approaches that consider social, economic, and environmental factors. By empowering women to lead projects focused on renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, conservation, and communities can then achieve long-term sustainability goals. Furthermore, women's leadership fosters a collaboration and community engagement, creating a ripple effect that extends beyond immediate projects that we see. What challenges do women face in climate action and environmental policy making is another very important question that we need to then look into when it comes to inclusion of women in environmental sustainability policy making. Despite their significant contribution, women have faced numerous challenges in climate action, including limited access to funding and resources, lack of representation in decision-making bodies, and societal barriers that restrict their participation. And through studies and our own, or rather my own experience, we have seen that cultural norms and gender biases can impede women's involvement in environmental governance, leading to underrepresentation in critical discussions on specifically land ownership, land heritage use, and policy formulation. Furthermore, women often bear the brunt of climate impacts, which exacerbate existing inequalities in our society. How then can governments and organizations ensure women's inclusion in climate-related decision-making? Well, the answer is to ensure women's inclusion. Governments and organizations must implement policies that promote gender equality in all aspects of climate action. This could be at a lower tier, at grassroots level, at a legislative or national level, and global level. This includes setting quotas for women's representation in decision-making bodies, providing training and capacity building opportunities, and ensuring access to resources that enable women to participate fully and independently. Collaborating with women's organizations that already exist and startup organizations is absolutely important and paramount to recognizing and realizing this dream. It can also help amplify women's voices and ensure that the perspective is integrated and climate strategies are equal. Now, I'm going to share a couple of examples that demonstrate how integrating gender considerations into environmental policies can lead to a more effective and equitable outcomes. The first one is gender-responsive climate action plans. These are absolutely important, and many countries are developing climate action plans that explicitly incorporate gender considerations. These plans include measures to ensure that women are represented in decision-making processes, that their needs and contributions are recognized at a policy level. The next aspect that is in its beginning stages is essentially access to resources. Right, and this is obviously one of the biggest aspects that is currently a conversation that's being had in the climate spaces, fair finance, but specifically policies that promote women's access to land, water, and energy resources can amplify and significantly enhance women's role in sustainable development. For example, laws that grant women equal rights to land ownership and use can empower women to make decisions about sustainable agricultural growth practices at a policy level. Gender quotas, as I've mentioned, in environmental governance are very important. Implementing these gender quotas in local and national environmental agencies ensures that women have a seat at the table. And not just a seat at the table, but one that allows women to speak, to vote, and to decide. This can lead to a more inclusive decision-making process in populations. Capacity building and training programs are absolutely important, and they actually policies that fund training and capacity building programs for women in environmental sectors such as renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, conservation, and climate policy making help empower women and enhance their skill set, enabling them to participate effectively and equally in environmental decision making. We also need support for women-led initiatives, and this is some initiatives that are exclusively led, implemented, and marketed by women. Governments can create funding mechanisms and grants specifically aimed at supporting women-led environmental initiatives and organizations. This encourages innovation, community-led solutions that address local and environmental issues. This is to say that women's inclusion and leadership in climate action policy making should not only lie with global NGOs and NPO funders, but it should also come into government implementation within different countries, especially within the global south when we really struggle with women's representation. And integration of gender and environmental assessments is paramount. Mandating that gender analysis be included in environmental impact assessments ensures that potential effects of projects on women and men are considered equally and the outcomes are then more equitable. One of also the most important aspects to climate financing with gender focus is initiatives like the Green Climate Fund that have specific provisions to ensure that a portion of climate financing is directed towards projects that promote gender equality and women's empowerment in climate action. And as I move toward wrapping up, it's also important to look at the intersection between gender-based violence and climate action policy involvement for women. It necessitates for legal frameworks against gender-based violence in environmental contexts. Policies that address gender-based violence in relation to environmental issues such as land grabbing or resource extraction help women's rights and promote their participation in environmental governance. This is specifically in rural areas, where many women face the challenge of lack of access to land rights, land and heritage rights, and thus the use of the land that is rightly belonging to them. And public awareness campaigns are absolutely paramount in raising more awareness. Initiatives that educate communities about the importance of gender equality in environmental sustainability can foster a culture of inclusivity, encouraging both men and women to advocate for equitable policies at an intersectional level. Some of the policies that have been passed, just two of them I'll mention, that are attempting to rather address the above mentioned points are the Gender Action Plan under the Paris Agreement. This plan has been implemented at various levels within the UN, with countries such as Canada and France actively promoting gender-responsive climate policies. The plan encourages countries essentially to develop national gender action plans and integrate gender considerations into their climate commitments and reporting processes. And the next one is Women's Climate Action Agenda. This agenda has been advocated by organizations and coalitions, particularly in regions like Latin America and Africa, where women's roles in agriculture, resource management are critical to climate adaptation strategies and therefore policy development and policy making. It calls for an enhancing of women's access to climate finance, promoting their leadership in climate initiatives, and recognizing their contributions to sustainable development in policy frameworks. Women are not only key players in environmental sustainability and climate action, but also women are essential drivers of change. And we've seen this through history with women's movements to vote, women's movements for racial, for eradication of racial segregation, and the general fight for equality. And in closing, by recognizing the role of women addressing the challenges they face and fostering inclusive policies, we can build resilient communities equipped to tackle the pressing environmental challenges of our time. Through collaboration, empowerment, women can indeed be pivotal in nation building and as nation builders, as we've seen before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luzola. That was a very insightful session, I must say. And I think your passion and enthusiasm on the topic shone through. And I suspect that is is also a byproduct of actually your own personal experiences and your involvement in environmental sustainability, as we saw from all that you've achieved. If it's okay, I've got a slightly personal question for you. So in your personal experience, so in all that you have done, what types of challenges have you faced and how were they overcome? Which I appreciate is a wide question. Even a tiny example to give us an insight into, you know what, we can do this.
Okay. So essentially, I need to put up my top three. I think as a woman in a male-dominated industry, it has been difficult, specifically because a lot of the times I was always the youngest in the table.
Okay.
So there's also an age sort of challenge. But essentially, the challenges I faced have always been the woman's voice being at the back, or rather the woman's voice being made to feel like it's too emotional or we're dealing with facts. So it's been a more patriarchal perspective, but I have also faced challenges where you find that women in the space are less receptive of newer women. And that's a big dichotomy. And how I have faced these challenges has always been at a grassroots level. So in as much as I do operate in a global level, my heart is always in the grassroots movements and grassroots activism, and how I usually move past these challenges. And I say usually because they are still there. How I usually move past this is making sure I amplify the voices of the young. I bring the voices of the young, and I believe in unity and numbers. I don't believe I'm not much of a fan of political, or rather, let me say, representative politics. I believe in bringing everyone that is affected to the table, and we articulate what it is that we need to do. We articulate how we can move forward. And so, how I usually push through these barriers is to ensure that whatever room I'm in, there's access for women. Not just me as a woman. There's room and access to younger women, not just me. If you're bringing me to the table, you're bringing a lot of women to the table, a lot of voices and stories. Story making is also something that I make use quite a lot, is that I don't only refer to lived experiences of certain women, but a variety of women to bring people to the fore and make them understand. Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's not just any one thing, is it? Because you are facing not only patriarchal society, but lack of sisterhood. And I think that's, for me, that's the key point. It's the sisterhood. If we do not support us, then how can we progress? As you said, unity in numbers.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, it's amazing to see that there are people out there just moving ahead and pressing on and being resilient, because I think that just gives us examples of what we need to do and what we need to be like to have a seat at the table, essentially.
Definitely.
One last question, if that's okay.
No worries.
Do you think, in your view, is it a fair statement to say that as time has passed, the involvement of women in environmental issues has become easier or perhaps more straightforward, or do you feel we are still not quite as open to it as we should be, and that there is still a long way to go?
I do think that we still have a long way to go, but I do acknowledge that a lot of work has been done and a lot of channels have been opened. But what I will say is that the accessibility perspective is one that we definitely need to address, because women are there and some opportunities are there, but women don't necessarily have accessibility to them, whether via knowledge or via the internet or anyone. We still do have to address accessibility for women to have or realize the right to be, you know, a woman in the climate space.
Yes, and I think events such as today and your sessions such as today can also shine a light on it. I mean, very honestly, 20 minutes ago, I did not realize all of what you have said actually exists to the extent it does. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge today and for sharing your time with us and your expertise above all else. I would like, if you don't mind, Lazola, if you're okay to stay on it, if anybody else has questions in the chat function, would that be okay?
Can I ask a question, Hina?
Of course, yes, please, Noella.
Thank you so much, Lazola. That was a very explosive presentation. I couldn't just stop typing. I couldn't even catch up, you know. I would like to know, do you have any initiative where you introduce younger people, maybe like teenagers or children in secondary school, you know, to what you are doing? Because, you know, it's very important that we carry the younger population along so that we can have continuity and sustainability in whatever we are doing. Do you have any such?
Definitely. Yes, I do. I do. I am the founding executive director of an organization called Isango Lenkubeko, which is Door to Greater. There, we basically train youths to be involved in recycling and understand renewable energy solutions from a community perspective. We work with high schoolers and young graduates. And we also have sessions, like currently we're running mobile farming sessions where we bring in policy people, we bring in legislative people to actually understand how mobile farming can be implemented at a community level for subsistence farming and also for economic development for young girls as well. And I also work for Fossil Free South Africa, where we are basically fighting the fight against false advertising in the climate space, which is greenwashing. So those are the two initiatives that I'm mainly involved in, that I bring in youth. At Fossil Free South Africa, we have a lot of volunteering spaces where we take in recent graduates, and we also do screenings of climate change sort of documentaries at high school level. I'll put those in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laz. Thank you.
Lazola, I can't let you go, it seems. The questions keep on coming. I have one more for you, if you don't mind, because you are extremely popular.
Let's go.
I promise this is the last one.
Okay.
It's an interesting one. Somebody has asked, how can governments and organizations ensure women's inclusion in climate-related decision-making? You alluded to quotas, but is there anything else we can expect, or we should ask?
Yes, I like the second part of how you phrased it, Hannah, when you said, what can we ask? Because the truth of the matter is, climate policy quotas right now are being implemented in governments. What we need to do, which is why the spirit of unity is important, from civil society and private sector, even public sector perspective, we need to go to our policymakers. And I mean at a councillor level, I mean a legislation and national government being lost, and ask the question, how many women are in leadership? Where are the women in leadership? We need to reach out to the women in leadership and ask what more can be done. And also, it's very important in policy processes, participatory democracy policies. Like I know in South Africa, they will release a white paper, which is a draft of a policy. And then after they will ask communities to come present if they're for or against or any other aspect they want to present. That is where, as communities, grassroots movements, and women, we come in to say, this is a perspective in this policy, in climate policy, that does not speak to us. That's where we start turning the narrative around and being included. So policy monitoring is also a big aspect of it, but the research to find out where the conversations on policy and climate change are being had, so that we can say, government, this is where you're lacking, and this is what we have to say.
Yeah, so do not be afraid to ask. And I think that's actually, you've given some good ideas as to where to go, to your local council, and for example, and question. There is no harm in questioning. If you don't ask, you don't get. There you go.
100%.
You are popular, but I am running out of time. So I would like to ask if you're okay to drop in the chat box your LinkedIn link, any Instagram links, any Facebook handles in the chat box, and I'm sure those who are interested will definitely reach out to you. And Lazola, thank you once again. You have just kickstarted this, at a high level, and we can only build on that. Thank you so much. Please, can we just give a very, very massive thank you to Lazola? Thank you so much. Super. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laz.
Fantastic. Right. So, in the vein of environmental sustainability and climate action, we now turn our heads towards health and well-being. And our second speaker of the day, Sanjeeb Lahiri, who joins us from India. It is actually quite late there, I believe. So I must say a big thank you to Sanjeeb for joining us. You are definitely a committed supporter of the Growth Conference. And actually, some of you may have been lucky enough to hear Sanjeeb during our conference last year as well. So we are absolutely honored, Sanjeeb, to have you join us again today. Sanjeeb is a C-suite HR professional with over 26 years of professional experience at a global level in information and communications technology, trading, distribution, manufacturing, and holding companies, including startups. He's currently the CHRO of GRP Limited and has previously held leadership positions with Tata Communications, Tata International, and Tata Africa. Sanjeeb holds a myriad of postgraduate qualifications and certifications, as you can see, and he's been featured in India's top 100 Great People Managers list 2023 and as most prominent diversity and inclusion leaders 2024 by the World HRD Congress. He has so many other achievements and accolades, and I will let you read it as I speak as well. And we are absolutely and truly fortunate, Sanjeeb, to have you with us today, covering health and well-being and the role of women in building stronger societies. Thank you so much, Sanjeeb. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hina. If you follow the sports of, say, like gymnastics, after somebody has scored a perfect 10, it is really, really scary to get into the, field. So, Lazola, thank you so much for started this conference with a bang. And indeed, I'm privileged, honored, humbled for being able to speak to you once again. So Noella and everybody else in the Growth Conference, thank you so very much. Now, the topic is, before my topic, the theme of this conference is women as nation builders. And that reminds me of something. 4,000 years ago, in one of the ancient scriptures on governance and ethics and administration in of the Indian subcontinent called as Manusmriti, there was a verse which I'll read with your permission, and it's in Sanskrit. I'll explain to you. It reads that Yatra Naryastu Pujyante Ramante Tatra Devata Yatra Tastu Na Pujyante Sarvasastra Falakriya, which means divinity blossoms where women are honored. Where women are dishonored, all action, no matter how noble it may be, remains unfruitful. I was privileged and fortunate to. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are audible.
Could you hear what I said? Because suddenly I got a mute.
Could you repeat the quotes? Could you repeat the quotes, please? It's very important.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll repeat the quote with your permission. The quote is as follows: Yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devata yatre tastu na pujyante sarvastra falakriya, which means divinity blossoms where women are honored, where women are not respected. All action, no matter how noble they may be, remains unfruitful. Now, mind you, this has been written by our ancestors 4,000 years ago. Right? I had the privilege of learning, getting into a little bit of Ubuntu during my days in Africa. And there's something important that I hold so dear, that women, when they learn, they influence a generation. Men may be able to influence an individual. Now, no discrimination here, but isn't it true? And for whatever reasons, the theme of this year's International Women's Day was accelerate action, right? So what bigger dichotomy have we got it? And once I had once I learned that I need to talk about the healthcare sector, I was really very happy, because I thought it was going to be the least of effort, very honestly, and I'm going to talk about very, very happy stories. Because while I was studying the people, well, in one of our psychology classes, my teacher used to actually say, and I'm quoting him, he's no more, but I'm quoting him, that to err is human, but to care is woman. We were talking about the mind space and the first impression about gender those days, long, long ago. When I look at the healthcare sector today across the world, and you can do any amount of Google, let me try to present some numbers to you. Uh, Probably one of the largest conglomeration of women in the service industry is healthcare. So across the world, approximately 69 to 70% of workforce of the healthcare industry is women. Okay, contribution of women to the healthcare industry across the world, well, estimated at about $3 trillion US dollars annually. And this is not my estimate. This is McKinsey estimate of 2023. I would believe that it would have grown. However, just pause here and look a little deeper. And that's why I absolutely love numbers, because they don't lie. We just said that the women population in the healthcare industry is about 70 to 80%, right? Out of which more than 90% are into the nursing staff, into the midwifery staff, and into the caregiving staff. Only 25 to 30% of the healthcare industry where our doctors are women. Point to be noted. 18 to 25% of the leadership positions in the healthcare industry are by women. Isn't that unfortunate? Lazola just spoke about, the representation of women, or the misrepresentation of women in leadership positions, and being in the role that I am, my day job of handling the people function in a corporate, I face this every day. The other important part to be seen, and it's once again interesting, is about what really happens in the healthcare industry when women join. Once again, the population in the staff, in the support staff, is over 90. Look at the middle management, approximately 50 to 60%, which drastically reduces when they look at the leadership position. The other quick point over here is also, if I look at, now being a people professional, one of my interests is to see how many people are staying back. More importantly, how many people are leaving the organizations, the classical attrition rate. So the attrition rate of men in junior management positions within the healthcare industry is actually close to 20%. And the same for women in the leadership positions goes up beyond 25. What is it telling us? Are we really, really focused in the industry, which is meant primarily to be, a stronghold for women for whatever reason, socially, psychologically, classically, even like like a common man's understanding? Are we really doing justice over there? So what prevents it? What are the real challenges that women face over here? Particularly, one of the things that's coming up very, very starkly, and not a very happy news, is the gender pay gap, is discrimination. And now, if I once again try to cut, slice, dice this issue of women not being actually making into the roles where the criticality, like not too many women are actually doctors. They are in support roles. Now, two things come up. One, the support roles are really not so well paid across the world, right? And the gender pay gap reported by the World Health Organization, a report of 2024, is actually saying the gender pay gap of women is minus 34% than the male colleagues. Shameful. I'm sorry, and I'm not mincing my words here, but it is. What is leading to it? Probably, if you look back to our societies, the whole it is the whole story of opportunities. Probably the opportunity. I mean, somehow probably our women colleagues, our girls, would have lost out on the opportunity to learn to make a difference in their own lives and their own career. They might have been bound by the social called stigma or norms which are attached towards them. Now, are there not differences? I mean, while this is the story of the world, there are definitely success stories, but we are talking general. We are talking about women, and therefore, probably the whole theme of accelerate action that came up as a theme this year for the International Women's Day is so very relevant and practical. Women face the issue of uh, certain specific needs which are towards maternal and child care. There are issues, there are problems, there are situations, there are life situations which are unique to women. Now, when I look at the healthcare industry as such, I would tend to call it a little more hierarchical, a little more structured, if I may. I am not consciously using the word regimental. So what happens is, one, a very, very strict work schedule, and that is the need. You and I, when we visit a hospital, we look forward to be taken care of, right? We look forward for all the attention. But once we change our gears to look at whosoever is giving us that attention and care, what is happening in their own life? Most of them are actually facing the external world, being in the service industry. For them, a patient is equal to a customer, or for them, a customer is actually a patient who is asking for care and personalized care, mind you. There are the other point, therefore, and this is one of the industries where people do have a start time, they may not have an end time. A nurse cannot just say, if say they are in a procedure and the clock has stuck, they just can't leave the procedure and go. And they don't know what procedures they will go through or they have to be part of every day. So therefore, highly regulated in terms of their own personal time. Takes a toll on themselves, their own health, particularly the days when they themselves need care or they themselves need a little bit of flexibility. Um, Probably that is something which is very much needed in this place. The other strange thing happens. I am told that women leaders are really not pulling up as many women in leadership positions from within the organization. They are, and the McKinsey report of 2023 is actually saying that approximately 34 to approximately 45%, I stand corrected, of positions of from middle to senior leadership in where women are there in the healthcare sector are actually filled in by women from outside, not internal promotions. As a people professional, I would someday want to ask this question, why? And the other sad part is that when women ask for the flexibility or when they need the flexibility, they are probably termed as emotionally, I hate to use this term, but emotionally weak. Now, the whole aspect of emotions, mental health for women, like each one of us, is so very important. And I'm going to make two assumptions over here. It's my own hypothesis. One is probably being the way the sector is, probably the healthcare sector has not yet caught up to the other development of flexibility that other sectors in the corporate world has done. Right. There may be reasons. I'm not taking that away, but definitely a point that the healthcare sector may want to ponder on. And the other part, I will ask this question to all my women colleagues: is that, are you taking care of yourself? At times, the world may think me as a woman, to be weak emotionally, but am I so? There are enough and more studies There are enough and more reports to prove that there may be momentary spur-ups, but resilience is something that women far, far excel than the men. It is inbuilt in women. Second is in terms of being stable, I mean, the whole stability that they bring into the workforce, the whole out of the box thinking, and not to forget the whole care that they bring into the workforce is much greater than any other genders combined. So my question to all my women colleagues is, are you holding yourself back? Please introspect, right? And I would want to just share 2 cents here is I think the world is looking for the light, looking for the light of care, the light of stability, the light of the light of sustainability, and the light of resurgence from all our women colleagues. So please oil your lamp first. And whatever I said today wouldn't have really have been possible without the support from my teammate Riddhi, a dear friend from the UK, Dr. Idris Mohammed, and another dear friend from Cameroon, Kumshalot. So thank you guys for equipping me to at least have this courage to speak with all of you today. Open to questions, Hina, Noella. I hope it made sense.
It did. Thank you, Sanjeev. That was a very educational session, I must say, Sanjeev. And actually, some of the stats you quoted are quite mind-boggling. And at times, I suppose I think everything you said was right, and I agreed with it. But it's sometimes, particularly at the end, it made me think: are we in a way our own worst enemies because we are, dare I say, multi-talented across many? How you said the positives that we bring along: resilience, stability, the caregiving. But then, yes, introspect and actually, don't hold yourself back. Go for it wholeheartedly, I think is the message, isn't it, in one way. But yes, I think you touched on a point: flexibility in terms of the healthcare industry. The flexibility given to women in roles there is possibly not at the same level as you said in the corporate world. In your view, and I appreciate you've also talked to other friends of yours who are also in the healthcare industry. Is there like a conscious movement towards saying, actually, what can we do to help the women in our workforce? What can we do to break this apparent glass ceiling or support them such that actually we don't get this attrition rate? Because presumably they're investing a whole load of money into educating or supporting or training these people. The last thing healthcare providers want to do is then lose them at the end of it, don't they?
No, very true, very true. And I think, see, in today's context, if someone is choosing the healthcare industry over the industry and they have been trained for that, in whichever way, right? However, the social norms around us across the world have really changed than what it was, say, a couple of decades ago. So I think as an industry, we must come up to speed with at least some, if not all, of what the other sectors are offering. Otherwise, what we will end up in is probably less talent, and I face that war every day. The war of talent, I mean.
Yep.
And the war of stability. And no organization can grow when the staff is not. So, today's generation, and I think, you and I were having a friendly chat just before we got into the conference, is about the demographic dividend that some of the countries in the world have today, including my own India.
Yeah.
When we are dealing with the millennials and the Gen Zs to take on the positions at whichever roles they are in organizations, their expectations and aspirations are much different than maybe you and I, right? Their realities are different than yours and mine. So therefore, organizations must be able to cater to those. Otherwise, it is really not going to be sustainable for the organizations, at least in terms of talent. So I think that's a lot of soul searching. More than that, a lot of discussions need to happen. Once again, a privilege to be talking about this on the growth conference. let the conversations happen. Changes can happen only when these conversations come up to table.
Absolutely. And I think actually you've touched on a very key point. When you talk about the Gen Z, that's a whole different mindset. And we cannot ignore their sort of approach to life, their needs, their wants, and what their priorities are may very well defer to the prior generations. And yes, not only the healthcare industry, I'd go as far as to say, but all industries need to adapt to be sustainable, to be profitable, and to be there providing the services that they provide. We've talked primarily about the healthcare industry and women within it. Taking a step back, in your view, how does women's health impact national economic productivity?
Oh, well,
This is the thing, the men can do anything when they want to do it.
Sorry, I think somebody's unmuted themselves. If you don't mind muting yourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, see, my question on this, and I get to talk or hear or discuss this, on my everyday job. If I am unwell, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, am I really contributing that day the way I could have? No.
Yeah.
If I am not, am I really therefore contributing to my ability to the national economy or to the world economy? I cannot. A very simple answer, and it's an absolute layman. We can't go wrong on this. We need to be mindful of the situations that probably women are going through in this industry. The other point, which once again the McKinsey report that I was referring to so many times is actually quoting, is there is probably a shortfall across the world of about 15 million healthcare service professionals, including doctors, including nurses, including midwives, and across the levels. Is this not causing an extra load on the people who are currently today on the job?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So how do they cope up with this load? End of the day, there have been stories, and there have been, I'm sure, newspaper headlines that doctors and healthcare service professionals actually crashing at their workplace, because of stress, because of their own ill health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the caregivers also deserve some care, and that's what I'm trying to bring on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. It resonates so much. I mean, here in the UK, we do know that healthcare provision is under strain. Again, resource talent, as you said, is hard to come by, and the last thing you want is the opposite end of attrition being higher.
True.
And yes, I mean, COVID showed us how much pressure they are under, and hats off to everybody in the healthcare industry. It's a calling, I must say. Having all of us, I'm sure, at some point have experienced being in a hospital. Being in a hospital is not nice, but actually, from personal experience, I would not have gotten out of it had it not been for the healthcare providers. We need them on their A game, and that means they need to be mentally well as well, and physically and emotionally well to be able to do that. Looking slightly differently then, again, for one more question, if that's okay, Sanjeeb. In what sort of policies, somebody's asked, what sort of policies can help improve maternal health care in undeserved areas? Or underserved areas, sorry.
Yeah. So I personally think, the issues of women need to be looked into. So very simply, if in a society women are really not getting the privilege of, say, time off to take care of their newborns or children, can that be made available? Because, I'm saying because whatever little bit of exposure I had to work in certain countries across the world, and a lot into Africa. So Mama Africa is really, really very, very close to heart. But has that thought reached there that if, say, women need a little time off, can we not give? It is difficult in the healthcare sector. I'm not saying that it is easy, but it's difficult. Those special days when women may need some little time for themselves, can that not be allowed? Right? Can there be, so a lot of corporates, they have taken on the policies like a timeshare, yeah, uh, uh, leave banks. Uh, I'm bringing in the whole aspect of financial aid as well, because I'm aware that a lot of parts across the world, the primary earner of the family may be a woman who is working in the healthcare sector. Adds the stress, as adds the financial stress and also the mental stress manifold. Can those be looked at? I think as a policy, if organizations, or for that matter the policymakers, are able to really get into the levels of their society, get into that level of the society that's representing the women who are in this sector, maybe know from them what they need, and gradually, you know, bring in this kind of changes. I'm sure it's going to be a very different space to work on. I don't have a really tailor-made answer, but just
No,
I mean,
I
just
think
what just came
I
top
think you
of my
covered
head.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think you covered that quite well. So you know, the message just resonates, and it is that, you know, we just need to do more to support the women in the industry
yeah, and just
and the
just
benefit.
just
Sure.
just 1 second, Hina, and I think we need more women representation in the policy making level and the leadership level. So therefore, urging all women to in this sector, in the healthcare sector, to really aspire for being on the top. Unless you
Yeah.
are on the top, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as I will borrow what Lazola just said,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it is not only one girl or one lady coming up on the table. It's many more voices coming up over there and thoughts coming up over there, which is definitely going to make this place a better one.
Yes, and I suppose that is also possible if women, to be able to do that, have the support outside of work, similar to how men have that support and have the freedom to do that. So it's
Yes.
getting in that sort of a position. But again, links in with what Lazola said, unity in numbers. Get to that stage and
Agree.
open it up for others like you is what that, yeah. Perfect. Sanjeev, thank you ever so much again. Yet again, you have topped what we had previously and topped what you did previously as well. So a
I would
very
like to ask a question.
of course, Noella, please.
Okay,
Now I'm
thank you
scared.
so much, Sanjeev, for no, we're in this together, you know. Thank you so much for that detailed presentation. I was launched out by network. I don't know what question was asked, but when I was not around, but I just wondering, how can men, you know, you gave the statistics of women in the chat in the healthcare industry and the position that women occupy, the leadership position. I mean, it's such a little percentage, you know. How can men actually help women in this? I don't want to call it a fight, it's not a fight, but this mission to have as many women as possible in leadership roles in the healthcare industry. Because, you know, we cannot do this all by ourselves. We need those who are already at the table to also make way for us at the table. How can men who are already advocates for women help us to get other men who are still patriarchal in thinking to just open up these leadership roles? Because it's not like women are not qualified. It's not like we're not qualified. We're either tagged emotional or we are tagged too busy with home affairs or too weak or too this or too that. I mean, all these things are just mere reasons to get us not to sit at the table of decisions where we can actually influence decisions that affect us, affect our well-being as well. How can men help us? What can men do to help us? We don't want to do this alone, and we know we can't even achieve it alone. How can the men help us, please?
Thank you for this question, Naila. And I think today's decision makers in the healthcare industry, who are primarily men once again, need to adopt something that we call as affirmative action. Now, how does affirmative action work? It's basically, can I say that if I have a position to fill in and I have equally qualified female candidates, probably I should be, I'm trying to find a word. I don't want to use the word forced to offer that position to the female candidate. So basically, within best amongst equals, I will choose a lady for that. And here, once again, these decisions needs to come from the policymakers. Now, certain, like for example, I know the triple B double E in South Africa, as we do, and there are certain reservations which are there for certain demographies in other parts of the world, right? I think some of those may need to come into the healthcare sector. Once again, there cannot be a compromise in terms of probably the qualification or ability to take up a leadership role, because that is going to be a disaster. But whenever I have a candidate, can I choose a lady? And consciously, it is not being it is not being discriminatory against the men. I'm never saying that. But unless we open up a few doors which has not been opened, the field will not be a level playing one. And I think the men in the leadership positions in this industry can probably act as mentors, can probably act as guides to be creating more women leaders, decision makers within this industry. The third aspect that should not be forgotten is about the whole social aspect. So whatever we may be able to do at work, I think certain norms in the society, like like say, childcare is a women's responsibility, which is fading in nuclear families. In, say, for example, in cities that are rapidly growing, like the one where I live, Mumbai, lot of nuclear families. I better change the nappy when it is needed. I mean, it's like that. However, in a lot of parts of the world, this job differentiation still exists. I think somehow,
Absolutely.
I think we are in 2025. Let some of this change, and most importantly, let some of this change in the mind.
In the mind. I agree.
Very true.
I agree.
Very, very true.
The change has to happen in the mind. Thank you so much, Sanjeev. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. That's been an amazing session and so insightful, Sanjeev. Thank you yet once again. Everybody, I'd like everybody just to give a very warm thank you to Sanjeev. I can see all the love on the chat coming through, Sanjeev. So thank you so much. Sanjeev, just before you go, if I can ask if you can drop your LinkedIn handle as well into the chat box and any other sort of social media handles as well, in case anybody wants to reach out to you, that would be super. Thank you so much.
With pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you. So we had a third speaker for today, Susan Chibanga, who was going to join us. However, unfortunately, we've been told that she's actually in the field at work and she's having terrible connectivity. So rather than join with such connectivity, we have opted that she will be joining us tomorrow and give us her full session tomorrow. So in addition to Susan, we will have 2 or 3 other speakers joining us, and we'd like to absolutely encourage everybody to rejoin while we cover topics in education, entrepreneurship, media, and so much more that is in store for tomorrow. We actually have some of our speakers for tomorrow and Saturday on the call who I would like to acknowledge. So if I call out your name, please do put your video on and let our delegates know that they're in for a treat tomorrow and Saturday. And we look forward to everybody rejoining us. So we have, I believe, Nana Adim, our speaker for tomorrow, who will be covering women in media and storytelling. Hi, Nana. Good evening. Lovely to have you here.
Hi, Nana.
We've got Zubi Agboifo, who I believe is talking to us on Saturday on a very interesting topic covering AI and tech, I believe. Hi, Zubi. Nice to see you. Welcome today.
Hi.
We look forward to seeing you on Saturday and hearing from you then as well. And I believe we have a moderator for our Growth Conference West Africa also here today. So Tutu Danjuma, I hear you have joined us today.
Good evening.
Hi, Tutu. How are you doing? Nice to have you with us today.
Thank you
Hi,
so much.
Tutu.
Hi, Noella.
Fantastic. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. So we are looking forward to seeing everybody join us tomorrow and Saturday. If you have colleagues, family, friends, and those others who you feel will benefit from this, please ask them to join. The more we can reach out, the more we can achieve. Unity in numbers is something I'm taking through today, and sisterhood and supporting each other. And also, not only for the women, as we rightly pointed out, Noella, you pointed out, men as well. So this is not only women specific. So please reach out to your colleagues, your family, your friends. Let's make it a session to remember tomorrow and Saturday. We're going to give you back another half an hour today, just as Susan will join us tomorrow. But we look forward to seeing you tomorrow and Saturday. Saturday, I believe we will have our moderator, Gerald, who will be joining us. I don't know, Gerald, if you're on the call today. Be lovely to see you, so we know what we're in for on Saturday as well.
Yeah,
There
good
he is.
evening all.
There
Looking
he
forward
is.
to a great session.
Hi,
It started off with the band. Great.
absolutely, and we're looking forward to having you here as well on Saturday. So we are in for an absolute treat, ladies and gentlemen, absolute treat. And with that, I would like to wish you a good evening. God bless, and we look forward to seeing you all bright and early tomorrow. Thank you again to all our speakers, Noella and the TGC team. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and bye.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Hina.
Thank you, Noella. Thank you. I love your questions coming in. Please do keep that up. I think that's great. It's sometimes I feel as if I'm asking all the questions, so it's so lovely to have you step in and ask the questions. So thank you. But no, I think good sessions today. Good sessions today, and
Oh,
I think
awesome. A very
yeah.
great way to start, actually.
I must
very
say, I mean,
good.
I don't know, you can see this. I have learned a lot more than I was thinking I would learn today, I must say. But yeah, the commitment is just hands